Hey y'all, my name is Jonathan Ferrier. I'm one of the registered dietitians with the Hungarian Health Coalition. I got to talking to some of our clients at the Hungarian Health Coalition, and one of them is actually from Germany. And I really have taken a liking to this couple. They're awesome people. The Hungarian goulash that we are going to cook is going to be as true to our clients' upbringing as possible. I called them. I got some tips on how they would modify a recipe that I found online. So I'm going to cook it the way that she recommended I cook it, to be true to how she was raised. I have previously made a jar of lard from something that I had cooked for someone else. I trimmed off all of the fat and just rendered it down. But I did want to showcase that instead of the lard, we could use either a olive oil, or we could use, this is a canola oil in this little squirt bottle. Both would be fine if we wanted to make a healthier swap. So everything else I kind of already had in my pantry, so I didn't have to buy any of that. Today, the only thing I bought was some beef chuck steaks. So the chuck is an excellent choice for any kind of stews because you will have plenty of time for it to cook down and break down those connective tissues, so it will become tender over time. I am always a shopper of the manager specials when I can. It was almost half off, so I got to save quite a bit of money for the same thing. So all in all, I did not pay for anything but this steak right here, and we're about to have a delicious dish. All right, before I start cutting, I did just want to show that I will be using a food scale. For 20 or 30 bucks, these can be some very versatile and useful tools in the kitchen for any budding home cooks. So the recipe that I have calls for 1.5 pounds yellow onions. What I did do before grabbing my supplies was I just went online, Googled, and found a conversion to tell me about how many onions I would need. So this isn't necessary. You don't need extreme accuracy unless you're baking, but I did want to showcase it because I'll probably be using it just to make sure I'm getting pretty close to the recipe. So just wanted to point that out. I will be throwing my dish on there and tearing it out. I'm going to bring in my cutting board and my knife now, and let's start chopping. I got a scrap bucket as I cut. I'm going to toss it in the scrap bucket. It's one of those things I'll pick through at the end, and some stuff is going to go in my freezer bag and some stuff is going in the trash. Remember, that freezer bag is going to be good for making stocks later. recipe calls for 1. These were a little smaller, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little extra vegetable, so I went ahead and used 2 of these yellow bell peppers. Wow. Okay, so I'm actually surprised at how much yellow pepper I got out of that. It's more than I want. I want to do a 2-to-1 ratio like the recipe recommends. So I'm going to take some out and I'll use it in something else that I'm going to cook later. I want to clean my board a little bit. One fun tip, if you're having an issue with your cutting board sliding around, you can put a wet paper towel under there, much more stable. All right, let's get to cutting these tomatoes. So notice I cut my flat base. Makes it a heck of a lot easier to come in here and cut. I will say if it is easier for you or more accessible to you, feel free to use canned tomatoes for this. If it's just better for you, feel free to use the canned tomatoes, but just try to find some unsalted cans or at least some lower sodium stuff. It can save you some time. I think there is personally, I think there's some benefit to using fresh though, in the sense of flavor. But the canned stuff, as long as you don't have too much added sodium, generally speaking, those tomatoes are very ripe. So these, I think, could have benefited from sitting on my counter for an extra day or 2. They're still going to be good, but I do think they could have benefited from just a little bit longer ripening process. Just something I'm noticing as I'm cutting into them. I will also say, I think I've got a pretty sharp knife right now, but I am pretty sure that a serrated blade tends to work pretty well with juicy produce like tomatoes or berries, something along those lines. So if you're struggling, if you've got a very ripe tomato, one that might be kind of mushing underneath your blade, try a serrated blade. Might make all the difference. All right, 2 tomatoes. All right, we got our carrots. Let me find one more little tool to show off. If you have one of these, it makes carrots a lot easier. You can go back and forth if you want, that works. whatever works for you, right? If you don't have one of these, and I will say, I don't always peel my carrots. I'm doing it today because I know a lot of people may prefer it that way. I don't, just because I wash it really well. I make sure my carrots are washed really well, and I kind of go from there. So, just wanted to show that that's one easy way to get your carrots peeled if you decide you would like to. If you don't have one of those, you can take your blade, but if you turn it back the other way, just another way of doing it. If you had to and you didn't have the peeler, this works. It's a little bit messier, but once you rinse it off, nobody will ever know the difference. Just wanted to show those two ways of possibly peeling your carrots if you do that, if you prefer to have your carrots peeled. And before I get into this next little bit, I do want to go ahead and get some water boiling. Get me a pot, fill it up with some water. I gotta get some water boiling for the potatoes. As soon as I get the water in the pot, I'm gonna wash my hands again and finish up with these carrots. So we got water in the pot, let's get it going on the stove. Now that we got cut produce, it needs to go in refrigeration pretty quickly. Time to finish strong. For these, this is a pretty big carrot. I think I'm going to cut it down the middle. I got carrot halves. I think I'm gonna do it one more time for quarters. All right, carrots are done. I'm gonna kill the heat.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn it off, adding the paprika. And then we're gonna stir it up and get ready to get some water in there. Just kind of emptied our bowls and it was great. I enjoyed mine thoroughly. Just wanted some kind of final comments from our guest that shared this recipe with us. What do you guys think?
It was awesome. It was delicious. It was fantastic. Look at our bowl. It's all empty. And he made a nice toast with it. and mashed potatoes. Really good mashed potatoes. I could eat the whole bowl, but I really restricted myself. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you did an awesome job.
Well, thank you.